You're sitting with your back to the room, working, reading, lost inside your own head, and then, out of nowhere, a small prickle crawls up the back of your neck. The unmistakable feeling that somewhere behind you, someone is watching. You turn around, and there they are, eyes already locked onto you, caught in the act. How did you know? How did you feel a pair of eyes you could not possibly see? It feels like a sixth sense, a signal that travels invisibly through the air and lands softly on your skin. For centuries, people have believed exactly that a stare is a kind of force, something that leaves the watcher's eyes and touches you from across a room. But the real answer is far stranger. Nothing left their eyes. Nothing crossed the room. Nothing touched your skin. That feeling was manufactured entirely inside your own head, by a system so ancient, so sensitive, and so deeply biased that it would rather raise 100 false alarms than let one real pair of watching eyes slip past you. To understand it, you have to start with the man who first tried to kill the myth. More than a century ago, a psychologist named Edward Titchener grew tired of hearing his students insist they could feel when they were being stared at. So he did something simple. He tested it. He set up careful trials where people were watched and not watched and asked to report the sensation. And the supposed power vanished. There was no invisible beam, no mysterious signal. When people could not use their ordinary senses, they were no better than chance at knowing. But Titchener noticed something clever, and it is the key to the entire mystery. He realized the feeling is real, even though the sixth sense is not. Here is what actually happens. You feel a vague unease. You turn around to check. Your movement catches the attention of someone nearby, who then looks at you. You lock eyes and think, they were watching me the whole time. But the order was reversed. Your turning is what created the stare you thought you had detected. So the sensation is not proof of anything outside you. It is a product of something inside you. And that something is one of the most powerful pieces of machinery your brain owns. Think about it. Of all the things in the world your brain could be tuned to notice, why would it be this good at detecting eyes? The answer is written into millions of years of survival. For your distant ancestors, a pair of eyes fixed on you was one of the most important signals in existence. It could mean a predator had chosen you as prey. It could mean a rival was about to attack. It could mean a potential mate or a threat from within your own group. In every one of those cases, missing the stare could cost you your life. Noticing it could save it. So evolution did what it always does with life or death information. It built dedicated hardware, and a neuroscientist named David Perret found that hardware directly. Working with the brains of monkeys, Perret discovered individual cells in a region called the superior temporal sulcus that did something remarkable. They fired in response to gaze, not just to faces, but to where the eyes were pointing. Some cells responded when another face looked directly at the animal. Others responded to a gaze turned slightly away. Your brain does not process eyes as ordinary objects. It runs them through a specialized circuit whose only job is to answer one urgent question. Are those eyes pointed at me? And humans are stranger still, because you made your own eyes easy to read. Look closely at a human eye, and you will see something almost no other primate has. A large, bright white region surrounding the colored center. That whiteness is not an accident. It acts like a background that makes the direction of your gaze impossible to hide. A chimpanzee's eyes are dark and hard to read, which keeps its intentions secret. Yours broadcast exactly where you are looking, to anyone who glances your way. Some researchers believe this evolved precisely so members of a cooperative species could track each other's attention. You are, in a very literal sense, built to be watched and built to watch back. So your gaze detector is powerful, but powerful is not the whole story. The next piece is what makes the feeling on your neck possible at all. Here's the crucial fact. This system is not neutral. It is rigged. A vision scientist named Colin Clifford ran a series of experiments where people were shown faces under uncertain conditions, faces where it was genuinely hard to tell which way the eyes were pointing, in shadow, blurred, ambiguous, and when people could not be sure, they did not guess randomly. They leaned again and again toward one answer. They assumed the eyes were looking straight at them. Sit with what that means. When your brain is uncertain whether it is being watched, its default setting is yes. And that default makes perfect brutal sense. Imagine two ancient humans. One assumed the rustle in the bushes was nothing. The other assumed a pair of hidden eyes was fixed on them and turned to look. Most of the time, the cautious one was wrong. There was nothing there. But the one time it mattered, the one time a predator really was watching, the cautious one survived and the relaxed one did not. Over enough generations, a brain that cries wolf survives. A brain that shrugs gets eaten. You are the descendant of the ones who always assumed they were being watched. But this still leaves the deepest part of the puzzle. You cannot see behind you. So where does the feeling actually come from? In the moment, when there are no eyes in front of you at all? The answer is that you are picking up far more than you realize, through channels you never consciously notice. Your peripheral vision is almost blind to detail, but it is exquisitely sensitive to movement, a shape shifting at the very edge of your sight, a shadow that changes on the wall in front of you, a faint reflection in a dark window or a phone screen, the tiny sound of a chair creaking or breathing or clothing rustling as someone turns toward you. None of it reaches the front of your mind, but your brain drinks it in, runs it through that ancient threat circuit, and produces a single, wordless output. Something is behind you, and there is a hidden road inside the brain that makes this even more uncanny. Most of what you see travels the slow way, up to the conscious, thinking parts of your brain. But there is a second, faster, more primitive route, one that runs straight to a small almond-shaped alarm center called the amygdala, without ever stopping to tell you what it saw. Scientists have studied people who are blind because the seeing part of their brain was damaged, people who consciously cannot see a thing, and astonishingly, some of them can still tell, at better than chance, when a face is looking directly at them. The gaze reaches the alarm. It just never reaches the part of them that knows. That is what a hunch feels like. That is the prickle on your neck. It is your alarm center firing on information your conscious mind was never handed. You feel the conclusion without ever seeing the evidence. So the whole thing finally comes together, and it is far more elegant than any sixth sense. You are not detecting a beam from someone's eyes. You are running an ancient, hair-trigger surveillance system that scans the faint edges of your senses for the faintest hint of attention, that assumes the worst whenever it is unsure, and that can sound the alarm without ever letting you see why. Most of the time, it is wrong, and you never notice, because you turn, see no one, shrug, and forget it instantly. But every so often, you turn, and there really is someone there. And that one hit, out of all the misses you have already forgotten, feels like magic. Does knowing this take the mystery away? Maybe a little, but it replaces it with something better. Because the feeling was never coming from them. It was coming from a part of you that has been keeping watch, quietly, tirelessly, since long before you were born, since long before your species had a name. A guardian running in the background of your mind, scanning the dark for eyes, ready to spin you around at the faintest whisper of being seen. You're sitting with your back to the room, lost inside your own head, when the prickle climbs up your neck and tells you someone is watching. Now you know nothing reached you from across that room. The watcher you felt was standing guard inside your own skull the whole time. Thanks for watching. Tell me in the comments about a time you swore someone was watching you. I read them all. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.